Okay. Well, welcome to a special kind of backdoor pilot, I guess you might call it, um, for my alternate channel, Pixels Roleplays. I might do a few more of these. I don't know, just kind of cross, like streaming from my main channel, and then I'll eventually upload it to the other channel, Pixels Roleplays, which um, I'll add a link after the fact. Gonna try to do this in under an hour. If not, then I may have to cut it short and resume later. Um, especially since I'm like figuring out the rules for character creation as we're doing this. Like I skimmed through it. Um, but and who knows? I might like try to edit this down a bit. For for the version that will end up on Pixels Roleplay. So um, I don't really have the chat on screen. There should be chat replay for people who are watching it. Um, but so I've this is gonna be something of possibly an NPC. Um, I don't know if there's any. Let's see if there's an index. Yeah, there's an index. Just to see if there's like particular rules for creating NPCs. This is possibly going to be something of a player character NPC. I have a lot of NPC ideas. Oh, NPC, not player character, which is just above there. Um, that's interesting. There's only one page for non-player character, and that is page 10. It's not even the game master section. So, uh, well, it's probably explaining what a non-player character is probably what we're dealing with. Yeah, a non-player character is controlled by the GM for the purpose of interacting with players to helping advance the story. Um, so I mean, this could be a potential like NPC, but also uh, just a way for me to learn the rules in case I do game master this. I can teach other players how to do this. Um, Also, it's kind of I'd say like just some preliminary thoughts. I think it's kind of weird that the bestiary is like not available as a physical product. Like it's just like maybe one of the only things that's not available as a physical product. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. Like they don't want to, like they're already kind of taking maybe something of a risk by making the rule book itself into like a physical product. There's something called recall knowledge. Is that like a like an actual skill? Okay. Um, Not really sure how much I'm actually abusing that. Um, Heck, like recall knowledge is like if I'm getting it right, like that's like It very much be like an optional type of thing, I think. Like, I guess anything really. Um, is that an actual like skill, or is that just a check that you? I guess it's just a check for that might be a combination of things. But like, it is an interesting idea of having like a recall knowledge roll. But if it is what I would get from just um, uh, name of it, basically, I think it would be uh, just kind of like if you forget a particular detail of something, or there's something your character knows that you as a player can't quite remember, or that they might know as a player um, might not quite remember, then you could use that skill check, and like you as a GM would know, would like ideally have a notes available and would be able to confirm like, oh yeah, like the player heard about this, but like they forgot what it was. Um, had to make a roll to remember that knowledge. But then again, there's also a metagame element that could potentially come in where they would like would it be interesting as a GM to have an element where like yeah, the players can take notes, but if it's from like in the game narrative, if it was something from like way back, then they had to make a recall knowledge spell. Even if they can find in their notes where this information is, they would still have to make a roll to remember as the character. Um, that would be interesting, uh, although a bit punishing to the player. I think just because like, oh yeah, you have a notes, but like this happened like several months ago. This is like something that goes back to like months ago in the game world. So we're gonna have you make a roll for it, even though you like took the time as a player to take really detailed notes about everything. You know, your character may have trouble remembering it, so we're gonna make have you make a roll. Like, um, yeah, I don't know about that, but anyway, um, making use of both my old webcam and my new webcam here, as you can kind of tell. Got 1080p webcam, which I really should be using for this, but like I don't know how. Um, like I'm precariously dangling my 720p webcam off of my secondary monitor, so I not sure if I want to do that with my new webcam. Also, I probably need to. I think I had like a thumbprint that is on the lens there. I might want to wipe that off eventually because I think that might be part of the reason why we're getting a like the image quality seems okay, but I think you're getting like a little bit of a. I wonder if it's causing this little. I thought it's kind of neat, but might be the result of the smudge. But anyway, let's try and remember that. Anyway, so our first step is to uh, go for a character concept. If I had a lot more viewers, I could actually go for the options of because I don't necessarily have like a particular um, uh, like there's an NPC that I've been using recently that I probably would want to use again for my Dungeons and Dragons adventure, but um, that's what the character I was planning on doing. Um, and I'll go into. I don't know if I want to spoil too much about her character, but she was um she's a sorceress, but also she might also be. I might have her multiclass with wizard, although I've heard multiclassing is kind of weird in Pathfinder. So, um, like it's through feats. So, um, and actually, like the interesting thing about sorcerer is that you could have access to other uh, uh, um, uh, like the various different spell types. So, I feel like maybe I should keep the idea of her being a sorceress. Um, uh, Originally, I had her have a draconic bloodline. Like she was artificially created, so um, like of the available options in fifth edition, that like makes that just was like the most interesting for her character and her background. Like she was artificially created by this guy who wrote a book that drives people, that gives like people knowledge of, or that details knowledge of the meta, which is the it's called Dominomicon. It's and there's a god called the god of fate is called Dominique, which for Pathfinder would probably be more accurately pronounced Dominique, but would probably say like I call him Dominique because Dominique sounds stupid. Um, but yeah, it's Dungeon Master. Uh, it's because it would be Game Master, so it should be Dominique. But then again, it sounds stupid. So, uh, I think long term we're probably going to be going with fifth edition. Um, like we may do the Pathfinder playtest as something of a one shot, or I don't know. Like I think the whole scenario for the playtest actually could work very well with my campaign setting with a few alterations, because it's about kind of a doomsday event, and the whole premise of Tarion. There's like there's a video like detailing the setting. I believe it's the only video on the channel right now. But basically, there's the goddess Cosmos, the god Chaos, and Chaos has been sealed away, and I think the premise of this Doomsday Dawn scenario is kind of there's a planetary alignment, and some like monsters are coming there, and I could tie that into like Chaos's plot to come back, to like escape from his prison and like do something with that somehow. Um, but anyway, um, the thing is, I probably want her to have the alternative that I would give her might be angelic ancestry, since she has a tie to a god. Um, and the idea that Dominique helped in her creation somehow. Because the idea is that she was. This is getting to spoiler territory, but semi-spoiler territory. These are details that the players would know meeting her right immediately. Um, but yeah, she was created basically because the book of the Daimonomicon drives people insane when they read it, because they like realize they suffer like an existential crisis, and various uh, various types of madness can ensue from like just trying to process this knowledge. So she was created basically to be raised from birth with this knowledge in mind, so that she has no like preconceptions of how reality is supposed to work. So she's taught like both ways. She's taught about like the deeper essence of the meta, as well as an understanding, I guess, of how the world works in general. But she's also very sheltered, and so she's kind of a bit of an awkward character, despite having high charisma as a sorcerer. Um, it just means that she wouldn't have proficiency in, like, is it called diplomacy? Yeah, it's still called diplomacy. even though they changed bluff to deception, they still call it diplomacy. They still call the persuasion skill diplomacy, which is, uh, I, 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 I don't like that. Um, um, yeah, like if anyone from Paizo's gonna end up watching this, um, yeah, I would suggest, unless there's some sort of like copyright reason, and I mean you're changing bluff to deception. That's a D and D skill, or at least in fifth edition. So like you might as well go all the way and make diplomacy into persuasion, because the problem with calling them diplomacy and bluff is that, to me at least, bluff is like poker. You associate with poker. You associate with exaggerating like your hand, or making it seem like you have, you know, like the Cobra Knot remover. Like you have something that um you have something like you're a lot more powerful than you are, or you have an advantage that you don't really have. Is how I interpret bluff. But you use it for any kind of lie. So, and there's all sorts of lies you could be telling. So, and not just bluffs. So, bluff to me means something a little too specific. So it's good that they changed it to deception. Diplomacy also has the same problem. It seems to mean, in general, something very specific, which is that you're negotiating with a person, or it's between two different countries, kind of. Um, uh, you know, uh, you think diplomatic immunity, you know, and persuasion is a much more broader term that as is deception. So I feel that like if you're going to change bluff to deception, why not make diplomacy into persuasion and just take it all away? Like unless you're going to have a different skill that is more about a different kind of persuasion, then why you're calling it diplomacy? Like yeah, I don't know. That's just a pet peeve, really. I mean, if I really want to fix it, I just go into Photoshop. That's the other problem I have actually with the playtest, is that they don't have a fillable character sheet form. They just have this printer thing, this printable character sheet, which is actually oriented sideways because of the way that they've formatted the character sheet. Anyway, I have like 45 minutes. I had to like, have some lunch and get ready for work, so probably should. So we're gonna go with her ancestry first, which would be elf. She has the appearance of an elf. So I mean, this is gonna go with sorcerer, but I'm probably gonna go with like either imperial or draconic, because Angelica gives her like cleric type abilities, and cleric type spells, and it's like, no, she's more arcane. Like, I think like her special abilities and feats should be like angelic, sort of, but like I don't think her spell list should be angelic necessarily. Um, like I could homebrew something, I guess. Um, so there's lots of backgrounds. I think there's some backgrounds particular to the Doomsday thing. I might look at those first. Also, the option to roll up our stats, which is what I prefer, but then it gives us all these other complicated rules for like how to deal with that, and I don't know. I kind of just want to. uh, try so yeah, let's just go through choose an ancestry. Um, I believe that all of our stats start at 10. Well, like make a different shape paper, but I don't have one on me. Um, I'll just write these on the side. It might also be easier to see this way too. So, um, uh, weird that they don't have they had the ability scores kind of, I guess, kind of like strength, dex, con, intelligence, wisdom, charisma. I guess like that, but I think they should have just made it. This could be another way they could suggestion. Move just exchange dexterity and wisdom, so you have all of your physical attributes on one side and all your mental attributes on the other side. That would just be better formatting. Um, I think if I remember correctly, everything starts at 10. Then you have like ability boosts from your ancestry and class and what have you. Also, here's another pet peeve I had the book is that, as far as I can tell, like I think some of these like handbooks go back and forth between using like male and female pronouns, but I think this one goes strictly with female pronouns. I feel like they should just use neutral pronouns. Like it feels just kind of weird. I'm not even gonna go into like the politics of that, but it just kind of, you know. And here I am like rolling up a female character, so like, and I prefer to play female characters just in general. So um, read into that whatever you will. Um, I'm bad. Wait, her name is Melody. To have really much of a last name. Um, but she doesn't even really know her father's name. Her father doesn't really know his name. Um, he just simply refers to himself as the writer. Um, um, I just going to list her deity as Dominique. Her age, can't remember what her age was supposed to be. I think she might actually be like, I'm gonna make her kind of young. Um, I'm assuming that an elf is a medium creature. Um, doesn't really say. Um, we'll figure that out when we get to it, I suppose. Ability flaw, constitution. Um, I think let's see here. Ability, page 18. um, each start 10. Ability boost. Um, okay, they increase your value by 2. Ability flaws. Decreases the ability scored by 2. That's what I thought. So the con will change to. Let's see here if it's eraser. If I can actually get this eraser to work. I'm gonna try to. Okay. Ability boost is to dexterity. Let's see if the white works better. It might. I don't know. Okay. Yeah, it works a little better. So dexterity is 12. Intelligence 12, and then there's a free one, I guess, which probably means that I can assign that to anything. Although, actually, as an elf, she would probably be 119. I don't know. I'll have to look at see. Uh, she'd probably be, but she wasn't exactly raised by elves, and they do in fact mature physically at the same rate as humans do, I believe. So, 19 may still be a good age for her. And she wasn't really raised by elves. She was raised by a human. So, like, the idea that an elf isn't really mature until they're 100 and something is an elvish cultural idea. And since she was not part of that culture, I could potentially justify her being only 19. So I'm going to give the free ability boost to Charisma because she's a sorcerer. And her social awkwardness will be expressed through the fact that she won't be proficient in diplomacy. So, languages common Elven. I'm not sure she would know I mean, I don't know if I have any particular reason for her not to know Elven. Um, I believe that like my days at Dominique actually kind of helped raise her a little bit. Because ironically, like her father would have been the one to teach her about the meta, but like Dominique probably would have been the one who actually, like, ironically, despite being like the lord of the meta in a way, um, he would be a little more sane. Her father's interesting. Like he circumvented um, becoming insane by becoming what I call a half witch, which means that he separated his intelligence um, and emotional aspects of his soul between his body and a phylactery. I can't remember how they were divided. I think I believe his intelligence was in his mind and his emotions were stored in the phylactery. So he's a little he behaves in a kind of disjointed way. Her father is actually technically much older than her. Um, Perhaps regardless of whether or not I go give her more elf appropriate age, um, because he is described as looking impossibly old. Um, yeah, he became a half witch not to become immortal, but that's just a side effect. Um, it doesn't instantaneously make him evil. I don't really like the idea of that in general. Like, there's uh, like vampires aren't inherently evil in my campaign setting either. Um, so I will say, like, most full witches are probably evil to one degree or another. Um, if only because people who seek out that kind of level of immortality. I don't know if I've even looked at, I even considered like what the mechanics of being a fool witch are. Like, if they're anything like D&D, then you have to like feed souls to your phylactery. That's not necessarily the case for a half witch anyway. I go so far as to say that. I mean, there are a few possibilities for uh, you know, I say that they, I don't really want to cheat that with the writer because um Dominique operates within the rules or tries to as much as he can. He doesn't just invent a rule just because it's convenient. Um, it's like, oh yeah, he's a god, so he can like grant the writer the ability to be a half witch without having to like feed souls to his phylactery. Like, no, um, like he's not gonna change the rules for one person just because he's a god, because that's like not um like, he sets some rules. He can homebrew some rules, as I do with the concept of a half witch. But so it's a bonus language. If your child's score is 14 or higher, you can also select one of the following language. She would probably know Celestial. Um, Her intelligence score is not yet 14. Um, like, if over the course of everything, I don't increase her score to 14, I would probably give her Celestial in place of Elvish, because she literally had spoken to a god. Granted, I don't know how to speak Celestial, but my avatar within the setting would know Celestial. um, And she has low light vision. I don't know where I put that. We'll just make a note of it. Let's see. I've been inactive for 1 hour and 13 minutes. Yeah, we're probably not gonna be able to finish this. This will be part 1. So anyway, we got ancestry feats. At first level, we gain 1 ancestry feat. We get additional ancestry feat every 4 levels thereafter. As an elf, among the following ancestry feats: ageless patience. You move at a pace that born from longevity that might infuriate your shorter-lived comrades, but enhances your thoroughness. You can spend twice as much downtime as usual on a downtime activity to receive a +2 circumstance bonus to all checks related to that downtime activity. Yeah. Maybe. Ancestral longevity. You have accumulated a vast array of lived knowledge over your long life. That would not count if she's going to be 19. During your daily preparations, you can reflect upon your life experiences to become trained in one skill of your choice. This proficiency lasts until you prepare again. That's interesting. That kind of be like another character I have could use something like that. I won't get into his concept that much. Oh, yeah, it is medium. It says right there. Alignment. I believe I had her at chaotic good, but she's kind of more. I'm not sure if I'd call her chaotic. Like she's either neutral good or chaotic good. Like she's definitely good. If anything, out of naivety or just and I think the chaotic kind of comes from her naivety too, because she doesn't like understand. It's not as though she has a philosophy of being chaotic. It's just that she doesn't really understand the rules per se. But that might make her more neutral because like she's dedicated herself to being chaotic. It's just more like, yeah, like okay, she's kind of learning as she goes, but I might tentatively make her neutral good. Um, so demon skirmisher certain the fight to reclaim your homeland from demons, unless you have learned to mitigate. Yeah, she doesn't really have a homeland. Forlorn, watching your friends age and die. No, she doesn't really have that. Keen hearing might be a thing. Your ears are fully tuned to even the slightest whispers of sound. As long as you can hear, normally you can use a seek action to sense unseen creatures in a 60-foot cone. So a 30-foot cone. Otherworldly magic could also be something. Choose one cantrip from the arcane spell list. You can cast this cantrip as an innate arcane spell. No period. And then there's nimble. Your reflex and life muscles are tightly toned. Your speed increases by 5 feet. Additionally, when you use the stride action, you can ignore difficult terrain in one square during that move. So it probably would be keen hearing, nimble, or otherworldly magic. Otherworldly magic might be. I probably would take that. Oh, at will. It continues here. The cantrip is heightened to a spell level equal to half your level rounded up. Oh, well. You can learn more about spells on page 192. Oh, there's some other ones here. Unwavering Mind. Your mystic control and meditation allow you to resist external influences upon your consciousness. When you would be confused, frightened, or stupefied for at least 2 rounds, reduce the duration by 1 round. You still require natural sleep, but you're immune to effects that would cause you to fall asleep. This protection only protects only against the asleep condition, not against other forms of falling unconscious. Weapon elegance. You are tuned to the weapons of your elf ancestors. Probably not. Particularly deadly when using them. Weapon familiarity, elf. Favorite bows and elegant weapons. She is a sorcerer, so it'd probably be otherworldly magic or unwavering mind. Or meander river. I'd probably go with that, actually. Because, like, otherworldly magic, like, oh yeah, you have an extra cantrip, but it's like... It's gonna be, like, half as powerful as any other cantrip you can cast, and having to keep track of that would be, like, oh yeah, this is the one that I get from otherworldly magic feat, so... I had to, like, oh yeah, this is the one that's half as effective as all the other cantrips I have. How about not? So that's it. I've been all the ancestry stuff. Let's see here. Feet. That's from ancestry feats. Let's put that there. Just no, that's okay. Let's go to choosing a background. Backgrounds are okay. So I don't know if any of the backgrounds actually apply to her. Like, Scholar would probably be the closest thing, like, because she did, like, you know, she has studied, I guess we must use this, so... Oh, you only have like 4 different backgrounds. I'm probably just gonna go with like it says like, oh, you must choose from the unique character backgrounds. Yeah, it also says like you can also um I don't know. I probably would rule that like you don't necessarily need to pick from uh uh those. You know, it could be useful, but it's not really. You can like work out your own reasons for being part of this whole scenario. Um, um, okay, so you can as a scholar. Let's just go ahead and do that as a background. And get probably would be 2 intelligence, which does give us enough to get the extra language. So cool. And then one of the free ability boosts, probably skip that to charisma. Possibly. I mean, I might want to give it to constitution so she isn't that squishy. Um, okay, so get kind of nature, occultism, or religion. Gain the assurance skill feat in your chosen skill, and you're trained in the academia lore skill. Lore. Academia. Uh, uh, it's trained. There's a lot more math to be done here. For skill checks, which is positive and negative. The assurance skill feat. I don't know what that means. It doesn't give me a page number for like, okay, what's the assurance skill feat? And where can I look it up? Assurance, okay. Trained in at least one skill. There's another varying skill feat. Assurance, here we go. Even in the worst circumstances, you can perform basic tasks with your skill. Choose a skill you're trained in when you first select this feat. You forgo rolling a skill check for your chosen skill, instead receive a result of 10. Do not apply any of your bonuses, penalties, or modifiers. Okay. If you're expert in your chosen skill, you receive a result of 15. If you're master, you receive a result of 20. Okay, so that's it's still like kind of accounts for your level of training in that skill, even though you don't apply any of your bonuses, which is a little weird. That's background feat first level, I think. Yeah, background. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to use it for when we get more. At the got 10 minutes. Choose a class, okay. So we're going ahead to Sorcerer. So I'm I should probably go back to here we go. Okay. Um So I think there's only two signature skills, which I don't know what the heck that means. Is there those are the skills that you get. Um what are the hit points? From Ancestry. Speed's pretty feat. Oh, what's speed? Already. Okay. Finalize your ability scores. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, it just says right here. Okay, so from race, class, gives me six plus con modifier. And boy, is this blurry. Okay, one or more determined by your bloodline. Okay, skills. Trained in a number of skills equal to 5 plus your intelligence modifier. Okay. So if intelligence at 14, they show. It might be further into the book, probably. This says the turn skill modifiers. This doesn't tell you which page to go to find out what. There we go. Or ability modifiers. So this would be +2. 8 is -1. I believe everything else will be 0 if dexterity is okay. Key ability is charisma. Don't know if it doesn't give me a boost. Necessarily. So trained in fortitude, trained in and reflex. And expert on will. So perception trained. Must be skills training number skills equals to 5 plus your intelligence modifier, so that's +2. So 7. So she's not going to be so if we want to be trained in Arcana, probably lore. Oh, that's academia. I don't know. I have to figure out what other kinds of lore there are. Probably occultism. Religion, definitely. Man, there's a lot of skills. Crafting, perhaps. Probably some other form of lore. She could be trained in stuff. I don't know if that would be really. I have like. She's trained in a lot of things, I guess. Oh, I gotta figure out that later. Okay, that's kind of fun. But let's stop for now. Thanks for watching. You can follow us on Twitter, support us on Patreon. Every little bit can help. I have new reward tier. I've revised the reward tiers a little bit. I just need to add an about section. Really, it's the only piece that's really missing at this point. You can do all of the things. And until next time, sayonara.